Vermont pulls it out. Vance Jennings. UVM. And we tell you once again, comes down to fundamentals. Oh, my goodness! Sorrentine hit that one from the parking lot. And Vermont has a 59-55 lead. 1:06 to go in OT.
From Hoboken, New Jersey, another episode of Wex On, Wex Off rolls along. Going to throw the clock back a little bit. Joining us now, my former New York Collegiate Baseball League broadcasting alum, Chris Lucey, also in Syracuse. Chris, how you doing?
Jason, I'm doing good, man. It's really good to be able to catch up, dude. Just getting scheduled and ready for this podcast. I've had like a million flashbacks to the NYCBL, man. It's been crazy. Just thinking, I think you were with the Syracuse Salt Cats at the time, and I was with the Syracuse Junior Chiefs, which are now defunct. By the way, there might have even been some legal action taken by multiple parties after that, not including me, as in regards to the Junior Chiefs. But yeah, there was a lot going on there. But you know what? It was definitely a very eventful summer, and helped me get to know you. So all good stuff. And now look at us a couple years later, just doing
Chris,
our thing.
Years away from that, but when we've talked plenty of times over the years, but I don't think you and I have been on the air together again for about 7 years. And a couple of guys that you worked with also doing big things. Just want to give them a shout out real quick. Ty Butler and Drew Carter also worked with you with the Junior Chiefs that summer, and they're both doing great things. Drew with the Celtics and Ty with ESPN Radio, working with my buddy Jake Asman. So happy to see everybody off to a good start. Now, you're at the Golf Channel. I know you, before that, were at MLB Network. So take me through a little bit of what your life looked like post-college and kind of your media direction.
Absolutely. I mean, you and I both worked with a bunch of really good broadcasters that summer. Shout out also to Tyler Aki, one of my Chiefs partners who's working on ESPN Radio out in Chicago. And then our good pal Dana Gray, who was at Bleacher Report for a little while and now has gone back full-time into play-by-play, working in minor league hockey. He's working with a team out in Ohio and doing a great job by all in Cincinnati. In fact, he's working in Cincinnati. So shout out to those two guys. And me personally, I was with Major League Baseball at MLB Network for a couple of years. That was an interesting time for sure. That was where I had my pandemic experience. We went from fully in-house to fully remote, which honestly, working in sports media, didn't think that was possible to be able to produce fully from home. But I mean, some people much smarter than I over there and at other properties throughout sports media as well figured that out, which, I tip my hat to them. They did it about as quickly as they possibly could. And you think about it, it's changed the media landscape a lot in that you're seeing a lot more talent come in from their house via Zoom. You're seeing more guests come in via Zoom from golf tournaments or baseball clubhouses, what have you. You're seeing a lot more of the technology on our phones actually broadcasting live to TV, which, I think as a person in the industry, is a bit of a double-edged sword. It's in regards to accessibility, but then the quality of what you're getting. But that is that's a topic we can go into later.
Let me ask you this, because something I'll divulge. I'm definitely not the world's biggest golf fan. I watch it occasionally when I'm with my uncle, for a holiday, and I find it pretty relaxing. But I don't find it that, competitive, that enthralling. To people that say golf is boring, Chris, you say what?
To people that say golf is boring, I say just wait until you play golf. If you put that golf club in your hands with the idea, oh, I can do this, I guarantee you there's at least a 1 in 3 chance you completely miss your first swing at the ball. Like, you'll miss it. Like, if you've never picked up a golf club before, someone drops a golf ball in front of you, hands you a 9-iron, hit this golf ball serve. I guarantee you the first time you swing, you will either miss it entirely You will hit it about 3 feet, or you will like just hit a worm burner or like a missile way right or way left and put society in grave danger. So when you do try to hit a golf ball for the first time, please do it at a driving range around a professional. It's much harder than it looks, and frankly, once you put the club in your hand and you start not just one time, but over weeks and months, if you really try to teach yourself the game of golf, that's when golf gets exciting, because you see a guy in the fairway from 150 yards out put the ball right next to the hole, or you see a guy hit a putt, or a guy or a girl hit a putt from 50 yards to like just the lip of the cup and doesn't go in. There's excitement there. It's a matter of putting yourself in the golfer's shoes and thinking, wow, these guys and girls are hitting incredible shots. They're playing for a lot of money in front of a lot of people. It's that's where the entertainment factor comes in. And obviously, that said, there's a huge barrier for entry in the game of golf in regards to like expensive equipment, getting out on the golf course, period, getting instruction. But yeah, I think that's kind of what I would say to that. It's like you gotta be in their shoes. Granted, I know it's hard to kind of do that.
Transition from, I guess they wear cleats in golf. I know they wear cleats in football. I should have just said that we're going to transition from the sand to the grass, and it would have been much,
nice,
much simpler. Yeah, not bad, not bad. So we got the week 18 in the NFL that is now gone. We now know what the playoff matchups are going to be. For the NFC, Packers taking on the Cowboys, Rams, and the Lions. And then the Monday night game there in the NFC is the Eagles at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The AFC, which is where we're going to start, the Cleveland Browns will take on the Houston Texans. We'll do the Dolphins and the Chiefs after that. And then the Sunday 1 o'clock game, Steelers and the Bills. We're going to go through all of them and pick. We'll start Cleveland Browns against the 4 seed Houston Texans. Cleveland, the number 5 seed. We know they have Joe Flacco. Houston, we know that they have CJ Stroud, who had a much better year than Bryce Young, drafted one after him, and was really able to take control of this Houston's franchise. Who you got, buddy?
That's a phenomenal question, frankly. I must say, as a Jets fan, am like jealous of what the Cleveland Browns were able to get with Joe Flacco. As we had him last year, and we didn't get a playoff berth, and we had a team that was had playoff potential, but ultimately fell short of that. And then this year, we had arguably one of the best defenses in the league going into the season with a lot of hope. And ultimately, with Rodgers getting hurt and then Zach Wilson continuing not to live up
to that game. I paid $261 to watch Aaron Rodgers get hurt.
Really? You were at that game?
My roommate, Matt, he's a Jets fan. He was sitting to my left. My best friend from high school, Nick, who happens to live in Union City, just like a block up from me here in Hoboken.
Yep.
Bills fan. He's on my right. He's, not happy that Aaron Rodgers got injured, but there's a little smirk on the side of his mouth, and you kind of see it. And Matt's just over there, just distraught, just dead inside. And I felt bad for, and I've said this many times on the podcast, but I felt bad for people who in the stadium who were like, the people during timeouts that got to hype people up, because real Jet fans were dead inside. The worst probably to happen to a franchise in our lifetime. You got to be jealous of what Joe Flacco is bringing to Cleveland. But that said, I got to think Houston pulls this one out. I like the team here.
Yeah, it's interesting because they have so much momentum. I mean, gosh, and look at CJ Stroud too, with how he was able to guide his team this season and really electrify a Houston fan base that had really no idea what to expect from him, and frankly a lot of people thought that he would come into the NFL and really be kind of the ugly duckling of all the quarterbacks that came out. They unfairly thought that he was soft against tough competition. A lot like the stigmas kind of that Justin Fields dealt with when he came out of school. I feel like, that he was soft against big competition, couldn't come up and win the big game. I mean, people just kind of, the knocks that people have given Ohio State over the last couple of years have pretty much just been wrongfully slapped onto their quarterbacks. And CJ Stroud used that as motivation. So you have to give him a certain level of respect for that. But it the same way. I mean, Joe Flacco has Super Bowl winning.
I feel like you're giving me the politician speech here, buddy. Which one are you going with?
It's the Browns. It's the Browns. That's what I'm saying. It's like Joe Flacco and the Browns have the playoff experience through him, and then a core that has been biding their time. This Houston Texans team is one of those teams that gets some flash in the pan success here, and they've ridden it this far. But you can't ever underestimate a team that has taken its lumps, that's come together as a unit, and is thinking that this is their time, because when it's your time, you're not waiting for anybody. So I think this Browns team is tough. They're battle tested, and a young Houston Texans team is going to learn a little something on the way to it being their time sometime in the future.
So we'll do all the AFC ones first. A team that didn't show me much in terms of me thinking that they really could get it done against the Kansas City Chiefs. That's the now 6 seed Miami Dolphins, heading to Kansas City to play 2-time Super Bowl champion Travis Swift. I call him
nice.
And I think the Chiefs win this one. They might even win it by 10. I really didn't like what I saw with Miami. I was listening to Rothenberg this morning on 98.7 ESPN, and he was talking about, why is nobody criticizing Tyreek Hill for dropping a ton of balls yesterday? Guy was without Jalen Waddle and without a big player as well, and just not able to make all the big plays. Yes, he was targeted a lot. Yes, he made a lot of plays. But the Dolphins had that game, and they blew it. They let down get out on a 3rd down and long and run it, and they ended up losing. They had the toughest matchup against the Kansas City Chiefs. To me, Kansas City wins this one by 7 to 10 points.
I would say even more so, maybe by like 2 touchdowns. I would say. I mean, when I watched that game last night, and throughout the end of the season here, the thing that makes me scratch my head is just the mistakes that Miami's players are making assignment wise. I mean, on that last Tua interception, I mean, it's pretty clear Chase Claypool was nowhere near where he was supposed to be. Tua's not going to throw a ball, because Tua is one of the smartest quarterbacks in the league. He's not going to throw a ball completely into outer space for no reason. He's expecting a guy to be there, Chase Claypool, and he wasn't. Ultimately, it's on this coaching staff to make sure guys are in the right places at the right times. And if a guy won't be in the right place at the right time, you find someone who will be, and you get, the offending player out of there. But this Miami team, time and time again, as we come down the stretch of the season, have made mental errors. And I mean, gosh, when you have a core that's been together for a while here, you're this late into like one of the longest NFL seasons ever, because they've expanded the regular season now. I mean, you can't be making these kind of mistakes. This coaching staff really has, I think, petered out as the season's gone on. And I don't really see much hope for Miami either at this point.
They're a team that kind of peaked at the wrong time. And speaking of a team that might have peaked at the wrong time versus a team that might be hitting their stride, the last AFC matchup with, of course, the Baltimore Ravens getting the bye in the AFC. They're the number 1 seed. The last AFC matchup we have to talk about is the Steelers going to Orchard Park to take on the Buffalo Bills. We know that nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen did just enough yesterday. And Chris Collinsworth is all with the basketball analogies, talking about how Josh Allen shooting fadeaway jumpers. But yesterday in particular, I agree. He didn't see a shot that he didn't like, a look that he didn't like, and led to some early on interceptions, too early on there in the red zone, that really made me think the Bills might lose, but it won't be because the Steelers beat them. They might beat themselves, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's always been the knock on Josh Allen and this Buffalo Bills team, is the turnover. Can they avoid the turnover against a Steelers team that is just a hard-nosed team that plays good defense? I mean, this is going to be a team that keys upon them in that way and is physical. And then you also have a banged up Josh Allen as well, going against a physical Steelers team like we're used to seeing. I mean, that could cause problems in and of itself. You take the run away from Josh Allen, and there's not a whole lot else going there.
And the other thing there was that Gabe Davis got injured late in the game, and that could potentially harm what Buffalo's got going on. There were a couple of injuries there in the NFC, which we're going to get to. transition. First, we'll do the Packers and the Dallas Cowboys. Again, you know this for me as a lifelong Giants fan. If Dallas loses, we all lose. But I think they take care of the Pack when they come to Jerry World Sunday at 4:30. That game on Fox. I think Green Bay is a good team, but Dallas has enough to get it done in the first round. I'm not making any promises for Dallas after that. But Dak Prescott and Tony Pollard and CeeDee Lamb have done enough, as well as Micah Parsons on the other side of the ball, to convince me this year that despite them not being able to be that number one seed, they're definitely good enough to beat the Packers.
I would agree with you there. I mean, impressive stuff from Jordan Love this year. You have to give credit where it's due. I mean, he led some impressive comebacks with a team that's not very good around him. He's really making that team look pretty smart right now, while we Jets fans lick our wounds and cry over Aaron Rodgers. That now Green Bay again seems to have their quarterback of the future, much like they did when Aaron Rodgers was in Love's shoes at the beginning of his tenure in Green Bay.
Chris, I got to just stop you there. There's about 6 different ways that the Jets could be made to look stupid, one of which is the coaching tree with McDaniel and Saleh. I mean, I have 7 different ways there. It's not that hard, unfortunately, to make your guys look bad.
I mean, you're preaching to the choir here. You're absolutely preaching to the choir. But ultimately, yeah, I think the roundabout way to it, Dallas is going to take care of business in that first round. And I would be certainly really surprised if they didn't. Credit where credit is due to Jordan Love. One heck of a year for him as their full-time starter for the first time. But again, Dak, Pollard, and that Dallas defense will handle business.
Got the Rams, the 6th seed, taking on the Detroit Lions. That game Sunday, 8:15 Eastern on NBC. Who do you got in that one?
I've got the Lions. I've definitely got the Lions. You have Dan Quinn leading that team really well all season long. Another team that's convinced that it's their time. Missing the playoffs last year was a massive disappointment for that core. They really retained their same identity, most of the same players. And, you worry about Jared Goff and his ability to hold on to the football. But again, this is a guy who has been to the Super Bowl before, provided there's a good team around him. And he has a great team around him right now. I think that good team around him is enough to carry him past Matt Stafford and the LA Rams, which will be an interesting bit of nostalgia for Stafford here going against his old team.
I'm going with Detroit simply because of Dan Campbell, and a lot of people are going to criticize what Dan Campbell did yesterday, getting a couple of late injuries and going for a game which seemingly didn't matter for their seeding. They were pretty much going to be the 3 seed no matter what, unless a bunch of things happen. Dallas wins the NFC East after the Giants steamroll the Eagles. Something that I'm sure Vegas loved. I'm going with Detroit because I just love the coaching style of Dan Campbell and that it's never enough. You're never doing enough. We need to pile on. That said, he could have taken a knee with like 30 seconds to go. He threw a pass to try to get a first down. And I didn't agree with that. But I think that Jared Goff, you talked about it, his ability to hold on to the football, his playoff experience. And just, again, Dan Campbell, they use the phrase too much, right? Leader of men. But Dan Campbell really is a leader of men. And I think
so true.
His men past the LA Rams. Now, the Eagles and the Bucks, that's the 5-4 game. That's Monday at 8 o'clock Eastern on ESPN, ABC, ESPN, ESPN2. Let me ask you first, are you a Manning cast watcher?
I adore the Manning cast. I think the Manning cast is the only way to watch Monday Night Football these days. Granted, it's turned around now that they have Buck and Aikman on the call. I'm actually a big Joe Buck fan. Controversial opinion. I think he and Troy do a great job. I used to be unable to watch anything but the Manning cast on Monday night. So huge Manning cast guy myself.
I think it means well. To me, it's not interesting. I'd rather just watch the regular broadcast. I don't need to watch Tua playing guitar. And I also just don't think Eli and Peyton are funny. I think they're good guys. I kind of care what they have to say about football as long as they say it and they're not trying to be funny, because in general, I just find them kind of corny. I really prefer to listen to Buck and Aikman. But that said, who do you got for the game? The Eagles not coming off a good one, but we knew kind of if it got out of hand, they were going to let it go. And it'll be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Baker Mayfield, who earned himself $1 million yesterday.
Wow. I remember that. That's a crazy one right there. That was an interesting game for sure. I am going to go with Philadelphia here. They, again, I mean, I think they're not going to have any trouble scoring more than 9 points, which the Bucks scored yesterday against one of the worst teams we've seen in the last 10 years. So, yeah, Baker Mayfield might have con artist his way into $1 million yesterday, but I don't see him fooling the Eagles defense. And I think Philadelphia has a golden opportunity in this first round of the playoffs just to get things back on track and remind everybody who they are.
And I believe, as we sit here, I'm Googling it now, but I believe we still haven't gotten an update on the knee of A.J. Brown, update on his ACL, which I believe that's in your knee, right? Before I start talking about it. Or, maybe it's your ACL, your ankle.
No, ACL is the knee, you're right.
Okay, I was right. Yeah, I believe we don't have an injury update right now about A.J. Brown. I just know went out of the game yesterday, and there's no reason for these teams to disclose anything here on this Black Monday. Just going to ask you one math question before we get you on out of here.
Oh, no.
I think. Oh,
God.
But how many years should an NFL coach have to prove that he's the guy before he gets fired?
3 years.
I agree.
3 years.
3 to me is the perfect number. You get a chance to try with a quarterback. You get a chance to try again. You get a chance to try a third time, hopefully taking into account what you learned the first 2 times. Sometimes you get fired after a 1-10 start and you have the number 1 pick in the draft and things just aren't going well, and you're the Carolina Panthers. Earl also finds himself without a job this morning, but the good news for those guys, Chris, we don't need to hold a telethon for them. They're not going to starve.
No, exactly. Yeah. I mean, good Lord, Jimbo Fisher certainly isn't going to starve down in the college ranks. I mean, some of the buyouts these men get are absolutely ridiculous, but that's just, that's what it costs to find good help these days. And then also to get rid of it when you realize it's not so good. It's a wild world out there.
Former WAER alum Chris Lucey here with me on Wex On, Wex Off. Chris, we'll have to do this again plenty of times. I'm going to hold you to your picks. We're going to have this up on YouTube at the end of the day. All right, thanks to Jake Siegel for helping us out with that. This has been another exciting edition of Wex On, Wex Off. Going to do it again. Going to do a bunch of football shows here the rest of the week, so stay tuned. This is Wex On, Wex Off.